Have you ever felt like you've lost everything? Like you're at rock bottom, with no hope in sight? Today, we're diving into a story about a woman who faced just that, but whose journey of loyalty and faith led her to a future she could never have imagined. This is the incredible story of Ruth. Our story begins in Moab, a land foreign to the people of Israel. A woman named Naomi had moved there with her husband and 2 sons to escape a famine. But tragedy struck. Naomi's husband died, and later, her 2 sons also passed away, leaving her with 2 Moabite daughters, Leah and Ruth. Heartbroken and alone, Naomi decided to return to her homeland, Bethlehem. She urged her daughters-in-law to go back to their own families, to find new husbands and new lives. Orpah, with tears, kissed Naomi goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. And this is where our story truly begins. With one of the most powerful declarations of loyalty in the entire Bible, Ruth looked at her mother-in-law and said, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Can you imagine that level of commitment? Leaving behind everything she knew, her family, her culture, her gods, to follow a grieving widow to a foreign land. That's not just loyalty. That's radical faith. So, the 2 women, Naomi and Ruth, arrived in Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest. They were poor, with no means to support themselves. But Ruth, ever proactive and humble, didn't just sit and wait for a miracle. She told Naomi she would go to the fields and glean, that is, pick up the leftover grain that the harvesters had missed. This was a provision made for the poor in Israelite law, but it was still hard, back-breaking work, often done under the hot sun. As fate, or rather, as divine providence would have it, Ruth ended up in a field belonging to a man named Boaz. Now, Boaz wasn't just any man. He was a wealthy, respected landowner, and importantly, he was a relative of Naomi's late husband. When Boaz came to his field and saw Ruth, he was immediately impressed. He had heard about her unwavering loyalty to Naomi, and how she had left her own land to care for her mother-in-law. Boaz didn't just notice her, he went out of his way to protect and provide for her. He told his workers to leave extra grain for her to gather, instructed them not to bother her, and even invited her to share their meals. He saw her character, her faithfulness, and he honored it. Ruth came home to Naomi with more food than they could have hoped for, and it was then that Naomi realized who Boaz was. A glimmer of hope was kindled. Boaz was what they called a kinsman redeemer, someone who had the right and responsibility to rescue a relative in distress. Following Naomi's wise counsel, Ruth took another bold step of faith. She approached Boaz at the threshing floor one night, culturally significant and risky move, and asked him to fulfill his role as her kinsman redeemer, to marry her and restore her late husband's family line. Boaz was deeply moved by her loyalty, not just to Naomi, but to her deceased husband's family. He agreed, calling her a woman of noble character. After settling a legal matter with a closer relative, Boaz joyfully took Ruth as his wife. And here's where the story comes full circle. The woman who arrived in Bethlehem, empty and widowed, was now a beloved wife. The one who had nothing now had security and a home. And the story doesn't end there. Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed. This is the beautiful part of the legacy. Obed became the father of Jesse, who was the father of King David, the greatest king of Israel. And generations later, from this very lineage, Jesus Christ was born. So, from a place of deep loss, Ruth's story blossoms into one of incredible redemption. It teaches us that loyalty, humility, and faith in the face of uncertainty are never in vain. God sees our faithfulness, even in the small, daily acts of service, and He can weave them into a story far bigger and more beautiful than we could ever ask or imagine. Ruth's journey from a foreign widow to an ancestor of the Messiah is a timeless reminder that no matter how dark our circumstances seem, God is always working behind the scenes, turning our losses into legacy. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more stories of faith and hope. We'd love to have you as part of our community. See you in the next video.